Hello, today I'm going to be showing off how I manufactured my computer case. I started with the cheapest common boards you could get from your local big box store. They're really soft and pretty easy to cut. Basically, I wanted to build my own computer case. I didn't really want to buy one, even though that would have cost significantly less, but it sounded like a fun project. This board is actually from a treadmill. It has a super slippery melamine coating on it, which does not stick to glue, which makes it perfect for a quick gluing jig. The clamping pressure comes from wedging these wood triangles between the pegs and the boards. As you can see, the clamping job did not go as planned, but it should not matter too much, as I plan to face all the boards down to size anyway. Speaking of, the speed controller on my spindle broke, so now I can only run the machine at 28,000 RPM. So instead of a single point cutter, I'm doing all my facing with a 1/4 inch end mill, which took forever. And the back panel is finished cutting. For the motherboard plate, I'm using an off-cut piece of plywood. This is nice because I will not have to face it. The veneer peeled up a little bit because I'm using an upcut end mill. Oops. Here is the hardware I'm going to be using to mount to the motherboard. They just press in from the opposite side of the plywood board. Now for some serious wood. This is a piece of scrap aromatic cedar I got from a lumber yard a while ago, and it's going to form the frame of the case. It has some issues though, mainly being the large gaps from knots. I am filling them with 2-part epoxy resin. For example, this knot goes straight through the board. After letting that cure, we can start chopping up the board. The case was sized to use the entire board, so no mistakes are allowed. Here's what the resin looks like. It's good I filled the hole since I had to cut directly through it. Here's a super rough mock-up of what the frame is going to look like. Now I need to square the board, so I manually jog my CNC back and forth to get the edges roughly perpendicular with the board faces. They were not joking when they named it aromatic cedar. It smelled really nice when it was being cut. Some of the pieces are much longer and have a lot of deflection away from the vise. So I tried using a jack at first, but that didn't work nearly as well as just putting a second vise on the mill table. I am using a 1/4-inch ball nose end mill to machine the ends of the boards, making the mating faces for the corners of the case. The hardwood is so much nicer to machine than the softwood common boards, and I think the result looks stunning. It's a shame you won't really be able to see this part. I got really close to clipping the vise with this cut. Now that the ends are done, a select few of the frames will be remounted to the machine, and I will add a channel relief for embedded LEDs. And here we have this super satisfying fit for the aluminum extrusion. Now, returning to the case panel. After facing this one, I went in and began milling the decorative pattern. This case has a lot of triangle designs, so I decided to make the side panels to be as triangular as possible. The glue up was not too great, so there was a small failure here. This wood is really weak, and I'll have to go back and glue the missing piece back in. The deep cuts in this wood kinda cooked the end mill, just a little bit. And now we have two panels. I learned from my error with the first panels, as well as from the frames, that it is better to machine the edges of the wood so that they sit flush together on the glue-up jig. So I put all the common boards into the mill and faced the edges. Look at how seamlessly they fit together. Once those dry, they go right back to the mill. I made a small miscalculation with the depth. That's going to be really annoying to clean up. Continuing the trend of using scrap boards, here are some pine offcuts that I want to use for the bottom since they are thicker. They don't fit together, so let's make them fit together. With all the panels complete, it's time to move on to finishing. I'm using shellac since that's what I have on hand. Did not realize this brush couldn't be used with shellac until it started dissolving. Finishing took way longer than I expected. I did multiple layers at different dilution levels and eventually went over it again with pure denatured alcohol to try to even out the coat. Finally, I rubbed finishing wax on everything. When the frame pieces were on the mill, I used the ball mill to create little indents to make it easier to use the drill press to make pilot holes for wood screws. I had a ton of 5/16 T-nuts on hand, so I decided to use them despite being comically large for this application. For the lighting, I decided to use plain, warm white LEDs, no ergobleds, as I felt it best matched the vibe I was going for. Now for the computer parts. I'm using a Ryzen 7 7700X CPU with 48 gigs of 5200 megahertz memory, a 2 terabyte SSD, and a 4070 Ti Super. And of course, many Noctua fans in their traditional colors. Keep in mind these parts were purchased in October of 2024. The computer is being built as a workstation and not a gaming computer. I really need it to run CAD suites and video editors. This is the first time I've built a computer, so if you see me doing something egregiously wrong, please point it out in the comments. I don't think I did. Hopefully. I am using some 22 gauge bronze sheets to make the grills for the fans. I'm using a work holding trick where you put painter's tape on the part and the table, and then super glue the tape together. And now we have 2 intake fan grills for the front of the computer. I still have 1 more sheet of bronze, which will become the grill for the GPU. I decided to mount the GPU sideways with a riser cable so that it could have an air intake on the side and maximize airflow, which might be overkill, but better to be safe than sorry. Cutting the grills took a really long time. They were already polished when I started, but why not bring them to a mirror finish? I got some of this fan mesh to put on the backside so that they actually catch dust. They are going to be absolutely impossible to clean since they have to be unscrewed whenever I want to clean them. I was sick of making grills, so I used some perforated steel sheet for the back of the case. Only you and I will see it, so I think it's all right. I brought some scrap acrylic to my local library to laser cut triangular inserts for all the cutouts I made in the side and top panels. I used Polymaker's online color tool to find filament colors that are closest to the Noctua colors. And you know, these two, they're pretty close. I did the best I could to keep these from getting cloudy, but they are just not perfectly clear like I was hoping for. Do you know how hard it was to find the matching holes for all of these triangles? I got so lucky here. In my trusty box of feet, I just happen to have 5/16 threaded feet that are gold colored, very similar to the bronze. They just fit right into the existing T-nuts without needing any modification. For the back panel, I decided to print it. It needs too many complex features and too much material removed to be efficiently made from wood. Because the case is not metal, I made sure to run an earth grounding wire from the power supply housing to both the motherboard and GPU. There is the GPU mounted. It has a printed bracket to support the other ends so that it does not sag. And I forgot it needs a power button. Back to the mill. Here I am using another sheet of bronze on a fiber laser to make the button. It pairs with the cheap USB and audio header to make an accessible front panel interface. And finally, using the fiber laser again, I am cutting out some triangles to fill the corners of the case frame. They are attached to the case via some nails laser welded to the backside. And here is the final result. It's a little rough around the edges, everything did not line up perfectly, but I am satisfied with it. Let me know in the comments if you think it looks better with the side panel on or with the side panel off. I am having a hard time deciding which way I want it. I appreciate all of you for watching all the way to the end, and I hope I'll see you next time. Later!